Welcome to the Wisdom to Wealth podcast. We are super excited. This is the podcast where we get to interview the wealthiest business owners in the world. You get to hear their journey on how they have overcome any type of mindset, any type of fear, any type of limiting beliefs that was holding them back from scaling and how they were able to overcome that so that they could scale. I'm your host, Shamar Star Cox, TV producer and marketing coach. My goal is to help business owners create content that sells by creating binge-worthy videos that your audience becomes so addicted to that they can't help but to buy from you. I am also the founder of the Convert Content to Cash Challenge. So if you are tuning in right now, you want to learn how you can create content that creates a deep impact with your audience and then increases your revenue, feel free to comment challenge accepted, or you can DM it on Instagram and I will send you a personal invite. Today, I'm super excited because we have Mitch Cammidge in the building. He's a visionary and he is the helm of Mitch Cammidge Coaching, the Worldwide Entrepreneur Academy, the Brew Beard Coaching, which I want to understand what that is. Mitch has redefined what it means to lead with purpose and impact with a proven track record of empowering over 10,000 companies in 10 years. Like, oh my goodness. Mitch is a master at crafting strategies that generate billions in revenue worldwide. His popular podcast, Savage in Business, and the syndicated radio show, Doc Fix That, reach millions of listeners each month, offering insights that resonate with audience across the globe. Mitch, thank you so much for joining us.
Star, I'm loving it. And hey, I'm loving your earrings. Those are stellar.
Bless
Nicely
your
done,
man.
girl.
Thank you
Nicely
very much.
done. Oh, hell yeah. Loving that.
Thank you. Now, let me tell you, when you and I spoke during the pre-interview, you shared something with me that was just so powerful. And I kind of want you to start off with this. You said, we helped 10,000 companies in 10 years, but you still have some fears of your own. Doesn't matter how successful your business is, you still have some fears of your own. So do you remember sharing that story with me? And if you want to share it now, that'll be awesome because I feel like it will really relate with the audience.
Well, it also depends on the day. I mean, I like opening up the subject matter on the instance of fear because it's not about the last 10 years. It's about right now for me.
Mm-hmm.
So while we're here live, for instance, I've spent my entire life with a heart condition. Right? I'm going through it again right now.
Wow.
And that means that you end up waking up a lot of mornings going, I don't feel well. I do not feel well as well right now. And I am not shy. I tell everybody, I talk to my clients, I talk to my friends, I talk to my business partners, I talk to my associates. So many people hold this stuff close to the chest. And when you talked about fear, most of us wander around in fear because if we say something, it may expose us. It may make us feel like we're being diminished or little. And honestly, over my entire life, any number of those instances have cropped up. But right now I'm going through something that's just robbing me of some tools and resources. Wake up and I don't feel well. I walk around, it hurts. It's scary. Some days I'm like, damn, how much longer do I have? How much longer am I going to get? And that starts to degrade from your quality of life, your quality of business, your time with your family. But more importantly, that makes you think, am I going to get to wherever I'm going to get to? Right. Goal wise, outcome wise, big, hairy, audacious goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
World conquering results. Am I going to get to see any of that? What's the point, right? Why am I pushing so hard on this when I feel so miserable all the damn time?
Mm-hmm.
And so those things are constant catalyzers. You and I talked and it's like, hey, bring up the past. I don't have to bring up the past because I'm literally going through the reps right now, dealing with something where as we talk, I don't feel well at this exact second. Yeah. I don't feel 100% right now, but life is meant to be lived. And my business, as we're recording, I just came off my internal meeting with my team and they require the very best of me.
Yes.
And my clients require the very best of me. And my family requires the very best of me. So I have to be able to pack that emotional angst and that constipation. I have to be able to pack it away in favor of being able to still perform because not dead yet.
Right. Yes. Oh, that mindset right there. Because there are so many people who are tuning in right now that I know that they're going through something, whether it's emotional, even health. Some of them may be experiencing things in their marriage, and it becomes difficult to wake up every day and to keep running your business. But here you are like, my team deserves the best of me. They require the best of me. Even your clients do. And you keep on showing up. So take us on your journey from when you first started to how you got so successful now. Any types of mindsets you had to overcome or any limiting beliefs you had to overcome?
Well, you and I talked last time, obviously, as we're prepping to come on this call. And the one part that stood out, and I love telling this part of the story, to get to where I am today, 10 years later, we go back 12 or 13 years, was a challenge from my dad. You know, I'm still blessed to have my dad with me, but it was a challenge from my dad. It's like, listen, if you're going to make this work, you'd better set out to do it the right way. You'd better set out to learn the right things, craft a plan, and be able to stick with it, because there were many instances for all the years of entrepreneurhood I've had where I wasn't very successful because I stuck with it.
Yeah.
I put those practices in place that were there. And so what I use now as my toolbox to work with other companies and resources to build success inside of their business and build financial success and have better lives because of it. It's the same basic tools I had to start with my own business, which is get off your ass, do the same repetitive tasks and tools and processes, pick those ones that are actual empire building ones, right? You have to have sales cycles and marketing cycles and all those other great things going on. And you have to be able to set aside distractions and shiny objects and other things in favor of putting in the repetitions and spade work. And that's how I got started. I was challenged to come up and craft a plan to do it. I was challenged to go and do some things with places and companies. Some were really good, you know. I won't say which company out loud, but their logo may look like a mermaid, for instance, right? They may look like a mermaid. And another major retailer is one of the top liquor retailers in North America. I ended up working in management training for 2 years to burn reps, to have gone through enough. Now, if you know anything at all about any of these, whether it's franchises or corporate stores or whatever, every manager and every assistant manager, every partner in these businesses is basically just a small business owner. So in the course of 2 years, I burnt 200 reps working with 200 of these small business owners, watching them, seeing how I operate, listening to their problems and their challenges, etc. Crafted the plan that 10 years later has me having had the privilege and the blessing to have served over 10,000 companies.
I love that. I really love that. And that challenge from your father, and then also just sticking to it, right? Like, it wasn't always easy, but yet you were developing this discipline even through the hard times. And sometimes there are entrepreneurs, when they're just starting out, it is easy to give up. I had a friend who told me, I did this for 7 months, I'm done. I was like, 7 months? That wasn't even enough to understand who you were in the 7 months. But it's because it starts to get rough. Like, I think a lot of times people start businesses, and you probably have seen this, but in social media world, it's just how we are right now. Everything seems like it's so easy. Like, just wake up and make $10,000. Wake up and just make $50,000. And then when you start doing it, not realizing you need the skill set, how to market, how to speak to my audience, how to sell, and that you actually have to take time to develop these skill sets, you start thinking, oh, let me just post my videos and I'm going to make a lot of money. And the reality is that's not the case. And so there are a lot of entrepreneurs who are getting burnt because of this.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Miss Cox, you just knocked it out of the park, right? Let me do that. Let me give you a little bit of love like that. You just knocked it out of the park. Now, as you were talking, I'm getting excited because of what you're saying, but in context to our audience, etc., let's come back to the 7-month comment for a moment.
Yeah.
I've been doing this for 10 years and I'm going to my 11th year.
Right.
That's 120 months. I've been broke almost 12 of those months.
Come on now. So
10% of my time in business as a business coach, I made this much money. And that was not all at the front end. COVID kicked the crap out of all of us. I don't know a single person that actually made money between March and the end of April of 2020. Right. I don't care what it is. Oh, I made some money. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You wrote business.
Right.
You booked revenue. Your accountant goes, your revenue from March 17th of 2020 to April 30th of 2020 was X amount of dollars. Hell, my revenue still looked pretty good from the middle of March to the end of April 2020.
Right.
I made this much cash.
Wow.
None. Not a dime. Because people were in distress. People were stressed out. People went home. They weren't having paychecks. Businesses weren't right business. People were not even paying with their credit card. Groceries were scarce. We were dumb and made runs on toilet paper. Why did we make runs on toilet paper? Like, that was idiotic. But we all went through these instances. And so I'm subject to the same conditions. When somebody goes, hey, man, it's 7 months and I can't do this anymore. Why can't you do it anymore? Right? My profession is to ask, why can't you do it anymore? Did you run out of money? Okay. How do we get you a job? And then how do we do this part-time? How do you do it fractionally?
That's
How
good.
do you know how to budget? Do you know do those different things? So when you bring that up and I get excited, the first thing I think is, well, 7 months is nothing. Well, great. I'm going to, act like a bigger animal. Go, well, I've been broke 12 months, right? Yay.
Right.
But the first thing I want to ask is why? Why? And what can we do to take it from 7 months? By the way, 7 months isn't enough. You got to get to about 14. If you don't get to 14 in a brand new business, it's never going to work. Back to the consistency question.
I love that. I mean, it's so powerful. I love that you shared just the realness of, I've been doing this for 10 years and went broke like 12 times, right? And a lot of that probably has to do with just how the revenue comes in and how we have to pay ourselves. It's just completely different, right? So I love that. But what I loved seeing just now was the coach in you come out, because it wasn't any type of criticism or judgment. It was more like, okay, why can't you get past the 7 months? And what can we do to help you to? And one thing you mentioned was like, maybe you can just do this fractionally. Maybe you can just work part-time. I think there are some entrepreneurs where they feel shameful that they're running their business and working part-time. Like they may feel like, if I'm working for someone else, that I'm not truly an entrepreneur. And so I love that you share that, because what I'm hearing is that there are seasons. There are seasons, and there's no shame in like, okay, I'm gonna have to run my business on the side while I'm working another job, right? Until I can sustain myself, because this is a real thing. So I just really loved that you shared that. Did you want to add any more, or
absolutely?
I have for you?
On our prep call, I know that I mentioned a leadership book, and it's reminded me of that really quick. And this leadership book, it's about the guy that founded the Navy SEALs, Richard Marcinko. And he's since passed away. So now he didn't found the Navy SEALs. He's one of the original Navy SEALs from the 60s. But he founded a little group called SEAL Team 6, which is now called Dev Group. It's one of the best specialized anti-terrorism teams in the world. But he wrote a leadership book for leadership principles for executive teams, for business, etc. And one of the things he said in there first, that goes back to the thing about fractional side or whatever, is being more realistic with your goals. And one thing he said was, so many businesses have visions and missions. You know what a good vision and mission is for a business? Keeping your lights on and your doors open and your employees off of unemployment.
That part.
Right? Great. Everybody can pay their bills and buy food. When you're in business, so let's take that extension for a moment about people doing fractionally part-time. If you're doing something you love and you can't replace what you're making right now, do it for 5 hours a week. Do it in concentrated pockets, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, amount of hours. That's right. I used to think that, right? Thank you so much for commenting. You're right. If I'm not working, and by the way, anybody out there that's thinking about starting a business, if you only think 9 to 5 is what's going to get you by, you lying. You're lying to yourself. I've been doing this 10 years, and I typically dedicate about 10 to 12 hours a day minimum into my company, but structured.
Yes.
So that's the other part, back to discipline. It's not just pell-mell for 12 hours until I'm exhausted, stumble away to my family, go to bed, wake up in the morning, and stumble back out for 12 hours. To you and I talking in the prep call again, that's what we call situationpreneurs or dailypreneurs, right? Situationpreneurs. I knew you wanted me to bring those up. Situationpreneurs or dailypreneurs are those people that kind of either fell into something or just wake up and go through the motions every day. They just happen to be employed by themselves, not employed by another company. So situationpreneurs and dailypreneurs are the ones just show up and just kind of work 9 to 5. Well, I showed up and turned the lights on and opened the door at 9 o'clock, and then I left at 5. I don't really know what happened, but I know I made some money.
Right.
So back to that discipline, et cetera. And for us getting through it to people from a fractional side, dedicate 2 hours twice a week to doing your business, and dedicate 2 hours twice a week outside of your work. So in the evenings, weekends, whatever else it's going to be, and set a goal to generate $1,000 a month consistently. Think to yourself for a moment, what would I do with an extra $1,000 a month in my pocket? How do I take that and replicate it? So now I'm going to turn it into $2,000.
Yes.
And then I'm going to turn the $2,000 into $3,500 a month. By the way, the number of startup entrepreneurs that I've talked to that have said to me consistently when I do an onboarding exercise, how much money do you have to make at a bare minimum? What's a comfortable number? What's our goal? Inevitably, they're always talking about somewhere in about $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 a month. That's what I pay my bills. That's what would probably replace what I've got right now. That's what I could get by. It would be kind of ugly, but I could at least, pay my rent or my mortgage, pay my utilities. And now, the price of everything's up further. So that probably needs to be $4,000 or $5,000 or $6,000. But then work towards you getting that. And when you've got that, now you can quit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now you can quit the job and dedicate 60 hours a week to doubling it up and doubling it up and doubling it up and hitting those milestones until it quote unquote feels like real money.
I love it. And that's such a good strategy, because I think oftentimes some business owners, when they're starting out, they think, I'm just going to make $10,000, right? And it's like, you're going to have to work your way to it, but you need to have a strategy. Mm-hmm. And there was something that you said, I've been in this for 10 years and I work 12 hours in my business a day, but it's dedicated. It's disciplined, and there's a strategy to it. You're not just spending 10 hours looking at emails. Like, I'm pretty sure you have your money-making activities. I'm pretty sure you have your leadership activities. You're managing your team. But whatever it is that you're doing is helping the bottom line of your business so that it can continue to grow. It's nice to start off with like, okay, I just need to make $3,000 or $4,000 a month just so I can take care of myself, right? But there's a lot of people in here where they want to make impact. And $3,000 or $4,000 is enough for you to start off. But then you start thinking in your mind, okay, how can I scale so I can employ others? So I can help others become financially free, right? And that's where those strategies come into play. So let me ask you this question. What are 3 key points that you typically share with your clients so that they can see success in their business?
Yeah, well, I know you and I talked quite a bit in the pre-call, and I keep referencing that because we had such a great discussion.
It was a great
we covered a lot of ground. Yeah. So for the team that wasn't, for the audience that wasn't aware, I'm talking about you. Hey, you, whichever one of you I'm pointing at, yeah, you right now. Here's 3 words that will get you by every time in business: profit, people, and process. Now, I got my internal tools, which is people, process, tools. But profit, people, and process. Those are the only 3 things you can measure in business. Start by measuring you. Can you measure? Do you know how you're going to measure? Do you know why you need to measure? The moment you can measure something, you can put a plan of action in place to make that measurable first consistent, and then you can put it in a place to grow. I was talking to, on recording day, I was talking to a client this morning where they're franchising, and they're in a home services business, and they're about 4 or 5 franchisees, and they're going to spend to about 100 to 200 in the next 2 years. So they're really going to wrap up quickly. And our conversation with the franchisees this morning was literally about this. How are you going about it? What do you think per average? How many do you have to stack up? And now that you figure those out, so how many home inspections do you have to do? How many referrals do you have to get? How many whatever you got to do is what you got to do. How many people do you have to talk to? You're building a business development plan, and you're building some guidelines, and you're building something to hold yourself accountable against you. And when you add a person, so profit, people, process, right? You put it at the bottom there. That's the second one. So profit is everything measurable. Time and money are both measurable. So your profit centers in business. Make sure you can measure how much time you're putting in your business and how much money you're making or spending, so that you can figure out how you break even and get ahead. People, learn how to measure yourself. What are you good at? What are you not good at? Skills do you have to level up in a hurry? And process is the method you go about doing things, the practices and habits you put into place. And when you bring other people into the business, you might have to modify those processes. You might have to put those mechanics or those steps into place differently to make it work so that they could follow along with you as well. So whether it's just you got to understand profit, people, and process. Yeah. What am I good at and not good at? Because there's going to be crap that I need to do in business that I am not categorically built for. I'm an example. I was terrible when I started out from a time management perspective. Well, time management, you need a book and a binder and a sheet of paper and a calendar. It doesn't help. I'm never going to write it down. You got to understand how you're going to spend your time, and you got to prioritize certain things. You got to pick tasks, and you have to hold yourself accountable to take care of those things every week. And understand that this week I talked to the requisite number of people and I didn't get a result. Right. Is there anything to adjust? Right. Or is it just not the right season for talking to those people? Next week, let's go through it again. Hey, I got a result this time. Cool. Let's see if we can stack more of those. So that profit, people, and process is integrous to business success, because whether it's just you, so the solopreneurs out here in your audience that are listening, or you got dozens or hundreds of employees, it's always paid every time. Yeah. How are people spending time and money? How are they creating it for the business? What's the upside of it? How are they doing at the job? What can we do to improve them? And then what's the method they go about doing things? Process. How do we start? How does the phone ring? How do we get paid at the end? What are the things and stuff that happen in the middle? Line that up, make it work, and then try and clone it to your best of your ability.
I love it. I love that you're sharing these 3 tips, because I think oftentimes, and I'm just talking about business owners who are just starting out, because we have a lot of them who are following us, and they don't understand this, right? So they don't understand process. I think for them, it's just, wake up and try to make money. But like, what's your process? What's your strategy? And then one thing you brought up, was like testing.
Mm.
Right? Because you just said, okay, if something isn't, if I had a certain amount of calls and it didn't go the way I expected, how can I review it so I can see how I can pivot? And I know even when I first started out, I didn't know how to do that. Like I would hear people say like, review your sales calls and see how it went. And I'm like, but what am I looking at? Right. But that's why it's super important it's true. That's why it's super important to work with a coach, because there are blind spots that you are going to have and you're not going to know what to look at because you've never run a business before, or, you've never assessed yourself before. So I really loved that you shared this. And I want to read some of these comments that are here on Instagram. We have Fierce 40s 10. She says, I'm trying to build my business while working my full-time job. And it's really hard. And then she said, thanks for the tip that you had shared. And I really wanted to read her comment because I know that she and I have been following each other for a while. And she's been telling me that she's been trying to run her business on the side. So the tips that you're sharing for her now is actually really helping. So when you were like, I'm talking to you, you were talking to her.
Well, let me talk to her again for a moment, right? While she's sitting there. Just two things. Measure how much time and money are coming in and out when it comes to that, and just focus on sales. Just focus on your development right now. No shiny objects. Don't worry about paid advertising and campaigns. Now, if you have an e-commerce business or something, obviously you have to use paid ads to reach out to people as well. But you can create content to back that up too. So just pick one or two or three activities that go and call it your driver's bucket, things that I'm going to do to drive the business, and have a little bit of measurement. How much time am I putting in? How much in resources? What's it going to take to get to break even? That helps you to pick how many of whatever you got to do so that you can actually take some time to pause for a moment too. If you're having a good month and you knock your goal out of the park early on, then you really only have two decisions and they're delicious. Do I give myself a little bit of room and time to breathe, take a break, or do I want to double down and see if I could set a new record for the month? But that'll become habit forming on its own too, right? Don't overwork yourself. Stay really, really simple. If you're trying to work full-time and do this part-time, you can only manage one or two or three practices maximum. And the bulk of them should be drivers, should be ways that I'm pushing just to get more.
I love that. And that's even for business owners who've been in business for a while. We don't stack so much things on our plates. Like for me, whenever I'm goal setting, and I just really officially learned how to goal set this year. So I'm just going to tell myself, when I first started, I would have like 10, 15 goals for the year. Okay. And then I started to realize I'm just overworking myself and exhausting myself. You really have to do what you have the capacity for. But the most important thing is what's going to move the business forward. What's going to move the needle forward? What are those money-making activities? And if you just focus on those 2 or 3, even 5, if you have the capacity to do 5, that will really help to move the business forward. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Well, let me stay on top of that one for a moment really quick. Let me jump in. This is how many things I only ever focus on.
Exactly.
Period. That one's my wife. That one's my kids. That one's my primary business. That one's my partnerships. And that one, because, and you and I talked a little bit about currency. I don't know if we got time to talk about currency. Maybe I'll have to come back and talk about currencies another day. The currencies I value most, and one of them is access.
Yeah.
Right? I've got the right community and the right access. I've got great friends. I got great access to all sorts of interesting people and places. Who knows how they're going to turn into business? But it means that every time I hear a one of or a weird problem, Mitch, I need to figure this out. It's pretty unique. It's pretty scary. It's pretty dangerous. It's pretty expensive. Don't worry. I got a guy. Right now, I say that all the time. Can be guy, girl, doesn't matter what it is, but I got a guy. Every time somebody goes, Mitch, I got a guy.
That part.
That is incredibly valuable. So this is how many things I focus on, period. That's it. That's all I got. Nothing else. If it's not serving those 5, it's never happening.
And that's having super clear focus, right? Like you're not distracted and pulled in a million directions. It's these 5 things and then nothing else, right? So I really love that you shared that. Thank you so much. So I really have 2 questions for you, but let me ask this first one before I go to the last one, which is for those who are just really inspired by what you're sharing today, how can they move forward with working with you or even joining your community?
You can find me everywhere on the socials. I'll give you a hint. Mitch Cammidge, at Mitch Cammidge, everywhere. You find me on Facebook, Mitch Cammidge. Hey, you're dropping the link in the bottom. Go to mitchcammidge.com. You're going to see information, feedback. You're going to see some of the members of my team, etc. Click the book a consultation meeting. Honestly, book it. You're going to talk to my queen of battle, Lynn. She's my head of business development. She's an absolute killer. She's a gem. You're going to have a hell of a conversation. You want to learn some more about your business, etc. Dive in. Just visit my website. Find me on social. Do not be afraid to ping. We will talk. We will talk before the meter starts running. We will talk. right? Mitch, I need to. Great, let's talk. Now I want to fix. Now it's going to cost you. Before then, let's talk. Let's figure something out. Provide some advice, suggestions. We got somebody who's done one of everything. So don't be afraid. Whatever you're doing, I've done some weird crap in the past from client basis. I've done probably one of everything. So when you show up and go, I think it's unique. No, it's not. We've probably done one of everything.
I love it. Yes, Mitch's link is inside the chat. It's also displayed on the screen right now. So you can just feel free to copy and paste or just go right to his site to access him. Also, that's his name. So you can just find him on every single social. And I love that you said we have a queen of battle. Is that what you called her? The queen of...
That's her official title. She's my queen of battle. Yep, absolutely.
I love that. I love when it's so unique. Okay, we got 2 minutes, and I really want to ask you this question. What is the one thing that you did or implemented that really shifted your business for success?
That goes back to how we started this conversation. It's habit. It is habitual practices. 100%. All the time. Always. Get in a habitual practice. It made my life so simplistic. It really did. If anybody's a DISC fan out there, high D, high I, high dominance, high influence. So I'm a run off into the woods without being prepared guy well before. Wait, Mitch, let's plan. Screw that. Let's do this, right? Dude's not wearing pants. He doesn't have torches and it's dark. Whatever. He'll sort this crap out. Habitual practices are the number one. Without a doubt. If I didn't have habitual practice, I wouldn't have a dozen members on my team. I wouldn't have done as many companies as I've worked with. I wouldn't be able to manage those. You know, my week is really busy. My busiest week I ever had 112 meetings in it. I'd never be able to manage if I didn't have consistent habits and practices.
I love it. I really love that you shared that. And I think oftentimes people may think, because I asked this question to a couple of business owners, and I think sometimes people are thinking, okay, this is the money question. How much money I got to spend, or who do I have to hire? And it always boils down to a habit, a discipline, or a mindset. It's like once you've made that shift, that's really what takes you to the next level. And this is something that I typically teach my clients. I always say social media is 80% mindset, 20% skill set. But it's the same thing with business. It's 80% mindset. So having that habit that you do every single day, that's really what helps to move that needle forward. So I just want to say thank you.
Preach.
You have truly blessed us. You have blessed the audience. Everyone's like raving in the chat. They really enjoyed this conversation. So thank you again, Mitch. Did you want to have any final words before I go ahead and wrap up?
Savage in business is a mindset. Right? It doesn't mean that you're unethical. It doesn't mean you're immoral. It means get after it. Get after it. Do not compromise whatever is going on. You cannot do it without tribe. You cannot do it without money. You are never going to be more successful than you have the opportunity to be right now. It's not going to happen tomorrow or in a week or in a month or a year while you're sitting around waiting with your hands under your ass, holding onto both cheeks, trying to figure out what to do. Do it. Get after it. Do it. Get consistent. Build a practice. Hire a coach. Get another one. I got one client that has 3 other coaches, right? They serve different functions. They do entirely different things. Exactly. Get resources and tools, build a tribe around you, lean in really quickly, and learn to fall out of love with the romance of business and fall into the familiar. The one thing that leads to relationship breakdown, like marriages, for instance, is that we trade off romantic and passionate and even sexual love for familiar love. And we go, well, it's stale. No, you trade it off because you know exactly what to expect. You know where the person's going to be. And if you build a good relationship in life with them, you got great things. Guess what? Same thing happens in business. It's okay to fall out of romantic love and fall into familiar love because now you know what to expect every day. And do not compromise on making adjustments and changes and growing. You got to grow. You got to learn. Get into it. Get after it.
Good. This is $1 billion mindset right here. It's a $1 billion mindset. I love it. Awesome. So thank you again, Mitch. Thank you everyone for joining us. We'll be back again tomorrow with another Wisdom to Wealth episode. As we are sharing this wisdom, please plant the seeds so that you can actually reap the fruit of wealth. Everyone have a good day.